Hey, what's up, everybody? So, this is a little different than when I normally do these things. Usually, when I do like a little intro to these, like thoughts and review and everything like that, I do it in a car somewhere and I'm about to go see the movie, and that's how I like to do the start of it. But this time, I'm watching the screener at home. So, I'm going to be watching New Life today, and the trailer looked really interesting. And I got a screener. Very lucky to have been offered the screener. So I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna watch the movie, and then I'll be back with everything. Um, this movie, I believe, is already out. It's coming on VOD, I believe, tomorrow. I believe that's the date that it was going to be coming out. And it may already be out in VOD in a lot of different areas. The person that offered the screener is based in the UK, and I believe that's when they're getting the VOD. So it's kind of been out for a little bit, but it was something that looked really interesting to me. And I'm looking forward. Actually, this was one of the few movies that I was looking forward to seeing. And to be able to get the screener is something actually pretty fun. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna check out the movie, and then I'll be back with the normal review, and then the spoilers after we're done. So we'll see you guys in just a little bit. Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the base review for New Life. I okay. This movie definitely has its ups and downs, and I definitely wanted to know what was going to happen, which is a very good thing, especially for a first time director when it comes to these types of movies. Um, the beginning of this movie is pretty slow. I'm just gonna say this outright. It takes about 40 minutes to really start kicking in, but once it kicks in, I was just engrossed in what the movie was doing. I think that it held up extremely well. And then it just it didn't quite stick the landing that it was leading up to. I felt like it just kind of started wrapping up all of a sudden, and then it like wrapped up and ended. So the base synopsis of the movie is that you follow two women, Jessica and Elsa. Jessica, she's running from the law, and Elsa is the person that's been hired to go and find her. And there's a lot of like little things with like how they can find her, them like invading cameras, and this all takes place in Portland, I believe. Well, it was shot in Portland, but it takes place near the Canadian border, right? And so you have this group of people that are trying to find Jessica, led by Elsa, and there's a couple of things that they're running like simultaneously, right? And it definitely goes in a couple places that I wasn't necessarily expecting it to go, and it has a couple of twists and turns that are interesting, and a little bit different than what I was kind of expecting when we were talking, when I was talking myself through the movie. Because in the beginning, I really wasn't sure where this was going. All I knew is that, it was basically kind of like a manhunt type of thing. They're trying to chase down Jessica because she's done something or something happened. And I'm not really going to spoil that here, but I'll spoil it, of course, in the spoiler section when we get into it. And so I think that this film is incredibly shot. It's beautifully shot. It is just the way the landscapes are framed. I really like the framing of the characters. I think that for a first time director in this type of film, I think this is a win. 100%. It's a win in that category. I think the performances are very strong in this movie. I think they both do really well, but it's really the actress that plays Elsa that she really shines in this movie overall. I think that her character is probably the most like in depth, the deepest character that they have in this movie, and the parallels between her and Jessica are really good, and I appreciate that. And there's a lot of stuff in there that I wish I just wish it had expanded the boundaries a little bit, and I wish that we hadn't jumped into the meat of the movie so late into the movie. That if that's going to be my number one complaint, that is it right there. That yes, there's a mystery behind it. Yes, there is a twist that comes in, like I said, about 40 minutes into the movie. And I wish that that had maybe been about 20 minutes into the movie. I think that everything that it was kind of setting up and left it mysterious. And then we get like, because they intermix flashbacks. Like a part of me has like a memento type of feeling to it because time just kind of jumps around. And sometimes we're in the present, and then sometimes we're in the past, and then sometimes we're back in the present. And it's mostly around Jessica and kind of learning why exactly she's running from everything, right? So overall, I think that it's a good movie. It's not a great movie, and I think, like I said, I think there's just a couple of things that I would do with the movie if it was in my like neck of the woods. That I think that there's one extremely good jump scare in this movie, hands down. It's one of the best ones I've seen in a while, and it caught me off guard completely. And I love it when movies can do that. It's a little more of a thriller than it is a horror movie, but it still has horror elements. It has a little bit of gore in it, not terrible amounts of gore, not like something that you're going to like, fiend over if you're a gorehound or anything like that. It's not going to fulfill that need, but I said it during Infested, right? This is a great parallel for me, by the way. That Infested needed what this movie has, right? It needed just a little bit of shock value, just a teeny bit to make it the emphasis better. And here there is that shock value, and there are some good payoffs in this movie with that shock value. I wasn't expecting it at all, and then we get it, and I'm like, oh, holy shit, that's great. I really liked the way they did these things. And so I think, like I said, I think that it's a good movie, but I think it just focuses a little too much at the beginning of everything. Like, just it could have, wrapped up the intro to everything a little quicker. That's really, and then the ending. The ending it's good, but I just don't know if the payoff is there, right? It's the same thing I think I had with Infested as well, where that payoff, the ending, just wasn't super strong. And here I felt like everything was going so well, and then it's just kind of like, oh, okay. It's not disappointing. It's apropos. It works for what it is, but I'm left a little empty with the ending. The final scene is great. I think that the very final scene of this movie is great. I'm just talking about the wrap up to the overall arching story, right? It being supposed to be a parallel between Elsa and Jessica, and there's two stories and the two lives that they have. And then New Life really means something specifically in this movie to both characters. And I feel that this is really Elsa's movie more than anything else. We focus a lot on Jessica, and it makes you kind of believe that it's a dual protagonist movie, but it's not. It's really Elsa's movie. That is my opinion with the whole thing. So if I'm going to rate the movie, I think this gets a solid, 3 out of 5 lost dogs. I think that it's well done. I think it's well shot. I think you got good performances. It's just, like I said, muddied down by a kind of boring intro to the movie, and then just a satisfying but lackluster ending, right? And satisfying is there's quotes over that, because it's not completely satisfying. Like I said, the very last little scene in the movie is satisfying for the end of Elsa's story. I enjoy that, but I think that just the big finale, just it's lacking just a freaking pube when it gets to that. So thank you guys for checking out this portion of the review. If you want to stick around for a little bit, I'm going to go into spoilers. I'm going to talk about the whole movie. So if not, make sure that you guys like and support the channel. I really appreciate everybody. Like in the last, now another week, another 100 subscribers within a week. God, you guys have been awesome. So I appreciate you. And for those that are just stopping here, this is available right now. I should say this before I end this part of the review. It's available right now on VOD in the US. I know in the beginning I was like, I think it's out. It came out May 3rd. And then it's coming out May 10th in the UK. So if you are able to watch it, you can watch it on VOD. I think it's worth your time. If you watched the trailer or you saw this part of the review, I think, even though I say that the beginning's a little boring and the ending's a little lackluster, overall, I definitely think it's worth your time. So you should check it out if you can. I was very satisfied at the end of the movie. I'm still satisfied now, and this is just a general reaction right after it. So, all right, we're going to jump into spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled, ta-ta for now. right, and welcome everybody to the spoiler section of this video for New Life. And I said it last time that I'm gonna try to keep this short. I'm gonna try to keep this as short as possible. I actually, while I was watching this movie, I don't actually get this like type of thing. Sorry, I'm looking over because I need to drag my notes over to the other screen so I can easily see them. But I normally don't get the ability to write notes when I see a movie when I do a lot of these reviews, because either I'm watching it with a group and I feel like it's a little rude to be like writing down and not paying attention, or having to rewind because I don't, didn't catch something because I'm busy writing notes, or I'm in an actual theater and I'm doing it, I don't want to bring out my phone and have my little screen pop up and bother everybody around me. So it's very like upfront, and I just don't like doing that. I like kind of like ramble on when it comes to these. But this one, I actually have some notes, and in general, the story is pretty straightforward. I just want to hit some specific beats with the story, and I want to talk about the 3 different acts that are going on here. So the basis of the story in general, to get a little more in depth into it, is that we have 2 characters. We have Jessica and we have Elsa. Elsa has ALS. She's, recently found out that she has ALS, and her body is just not working for her, right? We see her in the beginning of the movie, and she's kind of struggling. Her legs, she's limping around. She's got this medication. We don't know what it really is yet until she has this really, like, satisfying scene where she's talking to it's not a doctor, but somebody that's coming to help her cope with the fact that she has ALS, and she's doing like an interview, and then he brings with her somebody, or with him, someone who has ALS. And she goes through it and she's like, well, I don't really have any questions. I meant to only talk to you. I wasn't expecting to talk to her at all. And he wants her to see that life doesn't end with the diagnosis of ALS. And the lady, she's there. She's speaking very slowly. She's in the wheelchair. She can't move really anymore. And she says one of my favorite lines that I've heard in a movie for an extremely long time. She says, "Misery is powerful, but so is acceptance." I fucking love that line, that I had to rewind it, make sure that I wrote it down properly so that I can recite it here. It's powerful because she says it after, "Have you been thinking about suicide?" And then Elsa just kind of looks and is like, "Yes." Very like sighing, like, she doesn't want to do this anymore. She doesn't want to live with it. And she's hiding this all from the people that, it's like a big government type of corporation where they've got all these spy satellites, and they're hacking into different cameras around, to see if they can find images of Jessica and figure out where she's at. And like, you get to see a little bit of that operation. And that part's kind of neat in the way they do it. And she's hiding it because she doesn't want this to hold her back from doing what she loves, because she's got nobody else. Right? Because they even ask her during that, "Hey, do you have anybody that can take care of you?" Because you don't be afraid to have your family and loved ones help you, but she doesn't have anybody. So that's like a big deal for her, and probably one of the reasons why she's contemplating suicide. So the other thing is with Jessica. Jessica is on the run because she thinks that she killed somebody, which she does when you get into the flashbacks. But really what's happening is she's a carrier for a disease. They don't really say what the disease is. They call it Ebola, but it's definitely not Ebola, because I've never seen Ebola turn somebody into a goddamn zombie, right? And that's truly what it is that she's a carrier. She doesn't realize she's a carrier. Her and her boyfriend were out camping, and this dog approached them, and the boyfriend's like, "You should leave the dog alone. It's not very good." And she's like, "No, it's a cute little puppy dog. Oh, look at it." She goes over to it and licks her hand, and, "Oh, it's so cute. I'm going to get you some water. Aren't I going to get you some water? Oh, and I'm going to get you food. He's a big bad meanie, and he doesn't want to do anything with you." Like that type of thing. But the dog has fleas, and the fleas are carriers of this disease. So she gets a bunch of bites, and like when they're at home, and she like looks at her leg, and she's got all these red bumps over her leg. And then we look over the boyfriend in the bathroom, and all over the side of his body, he's got all the red bumps as well. And he says, "I'm not feeling well," even though she's feeling okay, because this thing like incubates and spreads within a matter of what seems like 24 hours within the film. So there's a lot in the beginning when she's running from everything, and everybody seems to be extremely helpful to her that she runs into. Well, she first goes and jumps in the back of a pastor or a priest. Well, I think it's a pastor. His truck, hides in the truck. And then when he goes and stops at a rest stop to go use the restroom, because she's trying to get over the Canadian border, she goes into his car, steals his food, his like leftover breakfast burrito, and then steals a map, and then runs off into the woods. And it's funny because he comes back to the car, and then like he sees her, and she's like, "Ugh, ugh." like looking behind her, all suspicious like, and then like he's just like, oh, okay, it's just a random lady out there. You think when he goes back in the car and he goes to look, and he's like, oh man, I'm looking forward to that breakfast burrito. Man, this is gonna taste so good. I ate half of it and I can't wait to eat the rest of it and goes to get the breakfast. Holy shit, where the hell's my burrito? Oh my fucking god. Oh, is that bitch? You think that, but of course he's a priest, so he probably would, or a pastor probably wouldn't say that bitch. It was that heathen. I don't fucking know. But it's just weird that he doesn't like report her or anything like that after realizing at least the food's been taken from the car and she's walking away very suspiciously. But he doesn't. He just drives on, and eventually the big conglomerate people are the ones that like track him down because they're able to see videos of her like getting in the back of his truck. And the movie itself opens with her like coming home bloodied and like cleaning herself off and like running off into the distance. So a lot of the beginning of the movie is learning about Elsa's ALS, right? And then not really learning much about Jessica other than she's on the run until we get to, like, she runs into some people on a farm. She tries to steal soup from them. And after she steals the soup, she gets caught by the old man that lives there, and then they take excellent care of her. They feed her, they offer her, it's the bathroom so she can take a shower because they see that she's got like bruises on her face. They give her clothing and food and all this stuff. And what does she do? She steals something from them in the bathroom, and then she like eats their toothpaste. Like, they just fed you a nice meal of bacon and eggs and potatoes along with some nice fucking hot coffee. And what is the first thing you're gonna do? You're gonna take their freaking toothpaste and squeeze on your finger and stick it in your mouth and then get excited because you're eating toothpaste? Like, is it because of the mint and your breath stinks? I don't really know. It's like camping style brushing your teeth where you stick your finger in your mouth and you just start rubbing it on because you forgot your toothbrush. I mean, that's never happened to me before, but hey, here we are. So when she leaves them, and later on they get a call, that a hospital got a call from the lady, that the wife, and that the wife wasn't feeling well, and they told her, oh, you're having symptoms of Ebola. And then when Elsa goes out to the place, and the entire time you can see Elsa slowly degrading from the ALS, like the people are degrading from the disease. And that's really the parallel in the movie, right? So when she goes there and shows up, we find out that they've been turned into like zombies. Like, they've died and their bodies have been reanimated in some way, shape, or form, and they're attacking her. And it's not really, I wouldn't call it zombification. I would do it more in the lines of like The Last of Us with the whole fungus thing, where it's like controlling their bodies, the clickers and those things like that. But it's something in between, and I think it's kind of fresh in the way it was done here. I like it. It was kind of unexpected because you really don't know up until this point, and you see the dog thing that happened there, and then they go into it, and like there's a conversation between her and the guy that is like kind of her boss, the head of the mission, and you find out that they've been hired by a pharmaceutical company, and whatever they did with the dog is they were of course doing tests on the dog got out, dog had fleas, and the fleas is spreading whatever they created, right? And so it all comes down to, don't pet dogs randomly in the woods. That's it. That's the easiest thing to do. So while he explains that, that's when we get the flashbacks of her going through the whole thing and being like kidnapped by the quarantine people, which raised like the thought in my head that, like, if you see this and this is going, I know you don't want to scare anybody, but if you got a bunch of guys in yellow suits, like this is Monster Inc., and you've got a freaking sock on your back and they're going to shave you down, like, wouldn't you just tell her, look, you guys have contracted something? Because they've done it in like Outbreak and other disease movies. This is one of the things that I was just like, it shouldn't have got this far, right? Into where she's escaping because she thinks it's because she killed somebody, which she does when she escapes, right? But you would tell her that, hey, look, we have you in quarantine because you've been exposed to something. We need to keep you here. Your boyfriend, fiance, whatever the hell he is, fuckboy, I don't know what he is. Like, he's really sick and you're not. And we need to figure out why you're not sick. Like, it would be just that easy. And then she could just be like, well, this really sucks. I really want to see my boyfriend. You can see him through a pane glass, and we're going to have to be, like, they're all dressed in hazmat suits. Something has to be up, right? But she thinks that she's just been kidnapped and is being held hostage somewhere, when it's kind of the case, but it's not 100% the case, right? And that was one of the things that I was just like, I don't really like that part of like the middle of the movie. But I liked everything else so much. The scene where Elsa goes to the farm and she runs into the poor people that were there that have now been turned into zombies. That whole sequence is absolutely fantastic. It's great tension. It's a shocker when you see the people revealed for the very first time and how they look, cuz like she goes in the house and she doesn't notice anybody, and then she walks through, and then just by the window you see the old lady who's just in a white nightgown walk by, but she looks really different, but you don't get a good look at her. And then she follows her into the barn, and they go to the barn over there, and then all of a sudden she turns around and she's got all these boils and her eyes are white and she's lost most of her hair, and she's just like crazed and starts rushing at Elsa, who, because she can barely hold her gun anymore. It's like, is she able to shoot the thing? And she's able to like kill her, and she actually gets attacked by the husband as well. It's just a well done scene. It's good scares, it's good tensions, it's shocking because it wasn't something that I was expecting, and it made me really want to continue moving on after I was kind of like, this is just okay. It's good, again, good acting, it's well shot. It's just like I could have just bits and pieces of the beginning and then do some of this stuff as we're mixing in the other pieces of the story. Because when it hits this point, there's not much left of the film. It's only like an hour and 24 minutes once we hit the credits. And you're doing this at 40 something minutes in, and you only have so long now to finish the whole thing. Where if it was about 30 minutes in, or maybe even 25 before we start going over to the next act, I feel that you could spend a little extra time with the way the ending was done, right? So, and before, because they found them there, the husband drove, Jessica all the way as far as they could go where the road ends, and that's where he gives her like all the stuff, and she continues on because she's trying to reach the border, and eventually she reaches the border town, and she runs into Molly, who's the owner of a bar. Unbeknownst to her, she's spreading this disease, so of course she's also going to spread this to Molly, right? But it's weird because she's working in the bar at the same time. I don't know exactly what it would have been nice, because they say it's not like an airborne disease. It's got to be passed some way, and maybe because they were sharing a bottle of booze, right? And they were drinking from the bottle, possibly, that's how it got spread, right? Because even like where we get at the ending of the movie, I'm like, shouldn't she be infected? Because I guess it would spread if that's the way it actually spreads, because the dog licks her hand, and then she's infected, I guess, basically at that point, and then probably kisses her boyfriend, her fiance, and then he gets infected with it. And then when they're at the farm, they make sure that like she's like gobbling up her food, so it wouldn't infect the pastor, because they didn't share anything, right? She was just in the back of the car, but she's gobbling up the food, and then the husband reaches over, and she's like, Jessica's bitten to the bacon but left it there, and they make a point that he goes over, grabs the bacon, and eats the bacon, right? And he's like, well, I'm not gonna let good bacon go to waste, which fuck it, I wouldn't either. You see almost a whole piece of bacon, she's not going to eat it anymore. Fuck it, that's my bacon. I'm going to eat that fucking bacon. And so, then again, you could say that they passed it along. He passed along to the wife because, they're, affectionate with each other, or however you want to say it, they did. Or the fact that like she had stuck her fingers into the toothpaste, and the wife goes and brushes her teeth, and that's how it gets spread to. I really don't know. I mean, it could be a multitude of things that they spread it in that way. And so, she goes back, Molly lives in a little bit of remote part of the whole town that's there. So as they're tracking down and we're trying to figure out exactly what's going on, I was like, oh, is this like, umbrella that we've got with this pharmaceutical company that we have here? And it's funny, I think I even wrote down lizard people at one point, because when you look at the eyes get like slit like lizards' eyes do, which is pretty goddamn hilarious. But I think that it's relatively effective. But I think it's more like the eyes slowly glazing over white, and which I think was kind of a cool thing. Like, again, the makeup work on the like zombie-like creatures that they become is pretty damn good. Ultimately, though, where I feel like it just kind of it gets to an ending rather than just having a little bit extra, like, because Molly ends up dying because of the disease, and then she turns into a zombie, and the jump scare happens in her place, where because out in the town, Jessica is recognized as, Elsa's pulling into a spot. Jessica's looking at a cat in the window, and then the cat starts pawing against the window. And Elsa looks over and she's like, huh, why is the cat doing that? And like the cat knows that she's being followed. And so the cat's like, bitch, look behind you. Look behind you. The people are going to come get you. So she looks behind. She notices that Elsa's like preparing gloves and shit in her car, because she doesn't want to get infected with anything, of course. And so, she starts walking away, and this is again where Elsa's ALS starts kicking in because she's got her cane with her now, and she can't quite keep up to the speed that Jessica has, so Jessica's able to escape. And when Jessica goes back to the place, tries to tell Molly, oh, I've got to leave, and then all of a sudden Molly, the zombie, attacks her as she's trying to open the door. It's great because she's going down the hallway, and she's talking, and she's like, just going and, saying to Molly, I'm sorry, I have to leave. I don't mean to do this to you. You've been great to me. Like, everybody's fantastic to her, but she spreads this disease to all these people that are great to her. And then she's holding onto the door, and then all of a sudden the door just flings open, and Molly's zombie attacks her. It's great. I think that's one of the best jump scares that I've seen in the longest time. I just was absolutely floored with how well that scene panned out, and I'm not doing it justice in my mind. So, she eventually has to hit, and it is funny because she's just like grabbing everything, and then she manages to grab the pan, and she knocks her out with the fucking frying pan, and I just lost it for a second. Even though it's not really that funny, it's just funny to me in the back of my mind that somebody's going to be using a frying pan to knock somebody else out. But hey, here we are. And so, she's basically forced to kill Molly and then runs out of the house, and that's when Elsa shows up. Like right after she's done it, it feels like. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like it. Only feels like it because she's able to catch up to Jessica so fast, right? It's just like they have the confrontation. Then we go back over to Elsa, and Elsa's going to go confront Jessica and the people. Then they make the thing like, because at one point, her boss man basically tells her, I picked you for this job because I know you have ALS, and I know that you don't want it to like hold you down, because what are people like us going to do, right? When we get old and can't do anything anymore, or we get into this thing, we want to have one last hurrah. But in reality, it was that, hey, she has ALS, she's going to fucking die anyway, so let's send her on a mission where she possibly can contract something and die, because who gives a shit? This is your last chance. To which she basically says anything. I'm dying, so that's why you sent me on this mission, right? And then the people that are at command center are like, what the fuck did she mean by that? That seems pretty strong. But it's like immediately after that, she like suits up and then arrives at the house and finds her like right away. I wish there was a little more cat and mouse to actually, okay, now I've seen her. And I looked at the time when that happened, and I'm like, there's only like 15 minutes left in this. Like, how do you have a good cat and mouse at that moment? And I really wish we kind of got that. And that's where I say I think it like kind of falls flat, because we've had this searching thing, and then all of a sudden she sees her, and then I kind of, again, I wish that it was just kind of like a back and forth. Like either she's barely getting out of there, or, oh my God, she's spreading it. And then it's like with the bar patrons, how did none else of them really catch it? And I think that I kind of solved that question myself, if it's just really passed through bodily fluids, right? So if you share something, you kiss, whatever it is, that's how the disease would actually spread, which makes a lot of sense when you start to think about it. So in those notes, I'm kind of wrong about that with the notes that I was doing it. But I do think, because like I said, when she escaped, like, she's in the little cell they made. The guy brings over food, unlocks the door, radios, and like, she's knocked out the lights, but she's grabbed the light bulb that's now serrated and broken. And then as she's trying to escape, she stabs him in the neck. And that's what she thinks that she's, and then she says goodbye to her boyfriend, who's trying to get like out of there. Is like, you need to get me out of here. But he ends up dying, and she leaves. And that's why she still has his like engagement ring on. So eventually Elsa finds Jessica in the barn. And when she finds her in the barn, that's where, we find out that the disease is actually starting to take hold of Jessica, and it's just kind of delayed. And Elsa explains to her that, hey, we need you because we need to understand, we need your blood. And, I'm going to bring you in, and this is not, it's not me asking you, it's me basically telling you. So she starts to approach her. Elsa shoots her in the stomach. She just looks around, then she starts running off. And so it's a, low speed chase where Elsa is like limping after her with her cane because the ALS is starting to kick in a little bit more now. And eventually she takes off her hazmat suit because it's fogging up, and she proves she's still able to fire a gun just fine and shoots Jessica in the leg, knocking her over. She's got great aim from far away with a handgun. And then eventually, Jessica starts once again trying to come after her, and so she has to shoot her. Well, no, she tries to run away some more. And the powerful line at the end of the movie is that she's like, I just wanted to see the world. And Elsa looks at her and says, me too. Me too. And I'm like, yeah, that's crazy, in the way, because she's like, she spent her whole life doing this job and not having the things that, would ultimately be, I wouldn't say like a crutch for her, but, would ultimately help her pass in her life happy in some regards, having a family and loved ones and everything to help take care of you. But also seems like the type of person that she doesn't want to be a burden on everybody. So she ultimately has to put Jessica down. She has to shoot her in the head and kill her. And then they do this like transition before the final scene of the movie where they show them like shredding all the stuff. They're shredding the hard drives, deleting all the information, making it seem like Jessica never existed. And then it cuts over for the final scene with Elsa as she's starting to talk to that therapist from the beginning of the movie in person and coming to terms with her disease. And you see that her hands like kind of cramped up and like stuck in the position rather than her being able to move it right. So it's, like I said, I think that part's satisfying, and like her coming to terms and like having the parallels with the disease that like even though she has this, and had Jessica just gone with Elsa, maybe she could have had the same thing, but instead she just tried to run, which was like running from her problems. And even Elsa at that point said, you can't run from this. We have to help you. And you like basically you can help other people. Right. But she's just like more worried about herself. And that goes back, I think, to that misery is powerful, but so is acceptance, where she reveled in the misery because of everything that was there. And just like, no, it's more about like what I want to, and I want to be free, not thinking about what she's doing to everybody. And then you have Elsa, that was kind of what she was at the end of the movie, but then rolled into the acceptance of this, and that she still has life left to live, and she's just going to have to learn how to deal with this disease before she gets too sick. So it's, like I said, I think that overall it's a very satisfying movie. That little section of her like running into Jessica and basically killing her, it's just way too short. I wanted there to be some more meat to that bone right there, because we get such a good bone in the second act. It is just juicy and overflowing and just falls right off when you bite into it, and you just want more. And then all of a sudden you get to the end of the bone because you found out that there were only 3 pieces of meat on that bone. Right? It's the best meal that you've ever had, but you don't get very much of it. And I just wish that we got a little more of it, and we got a little more on, maybe we don't necessarily need everything spelled out to us, right? As an audience, we shouldn't expect that. But there are still some times where I think that we just need a little more gristle, right? To give us a little bit more of something. Or even that she was like, I'm going to fake your death, or something, maybe a little bit of a change. There is a change in Elsa, but maybe something a little more. But even the fact that like she's perfectly fine, and then I know the disease comes on fast, but then all of a sudden she's like got boils and everything overhead when she runs into her inside the barn. Like, she's like, you're sick and you're the only one that's not affected. And she's like, oh, I think I'm pretty affected now, when she turns around. So, and maybe coming into contact with somebody that has the disease, and becoming like a super carrier, maybe that's what did it. I don't really know, and they don't really go into it at all. But I wish also that we had maybe something that said that they did do something with the blood. But I'm pretty sure that if they did something more, that would be about how, not how they're trying to cure it, but like, oh my God, this is how we can improve whatever it is we made, right? So overall, I still, like I said, I think it's a good film. I don't think it's a great film. I really think that it just lacks just a little bit to make it a great film. So that's it. If you guys get a chance to watch it, I'd say check it out on VOD. I'm very thankful to Ken over there with Strike Media Group for allowing me to watch this movie on a screener. And if, sorry, it's not Ken, it's Kier. I'm sorry, I fucked that up. Well, thank you very much to Keir Waller over there with Strike Media Group. I really appreciate that, I got this ability to watch this screener for a movie that I was really interested in. And I think that you guys should definitely check it out. If what you heard sounds interesting, and like I said, the meat of the movie, the main center of this movie is really entertaining and I think worth watching, even if the beginning's a little bit slow and the ending isn't as satisfying as it could be. So make sure that you're, I'll say it again, that if you like the content here, like and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. Majority of the people, I know everybody says this, but it's really true. Majority of the people that find my videos don't subscribe to the channel. So what's stopping you? I mean, I'm not asking you for money. just a little click the button. That's all I'm saying. But no, I don't like to pander myself out that too much. But I appreciate you guys so much for stopping by and supporting a little channel like this. There is a new podcast that is available, that should be available the Saturday after this releases. If not, you might be watching it. It might be out right now. I'm doing it on Pet Sematary Bloodlines. Good Lord, am I going to have a lot to say about that movie, especially when watching it downstairs on my regular TV to where I couldn't see shit. But that is for the podcast. So check it out. Available on all major podcasting platforms. Check out me over on Twitter, T_T_podcast if you want, Facebook, Terrible Terror Podcast. And of course, join me over on Twitch. That is Terrible Terrors, twitch.tv/Terrible Terrors. I'm there quite a bit right now, but that's probably going to be changing in the sometime near future. But come by, say hi, and talk some horror with me or talk some gaming with me. So thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you next time. Take care of yourselves and each other. Bye.